Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and welcome to No Budget Reviews, the series where we go around the country finding cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and filming them with absolutely no money at all. So we have to use my phone, no microphones, no fancy DSLRs, nothing like that. Just good honest cars that you can buy for very little money and you can enjoy driving. Well, viewers, we did promise you a review of first generation Hyundai Lantra once I was able to drive one, and here it is. This isn't the one that I filmed last month with Jude. I think his one's still having a bit of work for the MOT, but this belongs to Stan, who's day next year. You would have seen on the channel quite recently. And this is a 1995 Hyundai Lantra 1.5 GLS. This is actually a bit more sporty than Jude's one as well, because you've got a rear spoiler. I'm sure that was an option because they're the same trim level. Even if Jude's one's a 1.6, this is a 1.5. The engine in this car is actually exactly the same as the facelifted original generation Proton. What we got in this country is the 1.5 MPI, or in its home market of Malaysia, known as the Saga Iswara. So similar sort of era to one of those. First generation Lantra was launched in this country in 1991, and this is a 95, although it's an earlier 95 to a Jude's one. This would have come from a sort of era when Hyundai were very, very small in this country, and they had the still VX2 on sale, which was a Hyundai. I always forget the name. They're called the Pony, but I never can't. Hyundai XL, that's it, which is a facelifted Hyundai XL. So this is still quite early on in the life of Hyundai as a brand. Inside we've got the sort of Mitsubishi feeling dashboard, because this really is a Korean Mitsubishi. It's got a Mitsubishi engine, Mitsubishi 5-speed gearbox, and just like that Japanese brand, the wiper and indicator controls are inverted. Also got an original Hyundai cassette player in here. I did try the secret mission documents last time, and well, they don't work in there, so I'm not going to try again. Again, high standard of equipment. The only thing I can see that's missing in this car is air conditioning, which I'm sure on the CD or CDI model, this being the mid-range GLS, didn't come with that. No airbag in this car, although by this time this is a second facelift, first generation Lantra. It would have come with an airbag on things like the Canadian market. Boot release is down there. We'll try that in a second, although it's not as convenient as a boot release here, which is where the fuel flap release is, because that sort of moves around. I've got a door open warning light. Very, very typical 90s fabric choice in here. I thought that'd be a soft touch dashboard, but it isn't. Oh well, it doesn't really matter. Given these cars cost, you know, well under £1,000 these days, and sometimes a lot less than that, and you even get a rev counter, I'm not really complaining. Driving position feels pretty good. That feels pretty natural actually. And we've got a variable speed intermittent wipe as well, which is pretty fancy. Big ashtray and a 12-volt socket too. Let's take a seat in the back. Right, somewhere between an Escort and a Mondeo in size, and actually the rear room isn't too bad. We've got adjustable lumbar support as well in this car. Stan tells me that the CDC or CDI models that were higher up in the range actually came with cruise control, which is pretty good. Got electric rear windows in here too, little ashtray there, and this one's actually got the cover for the centre console. There is a sunroof in here, but it's actually only a pop-up sunroof. No rear headrests for some reason, but you do get colour-coded seat belts. That's very nice. I like that. Wonderful. Real feeling of air in here as well. Very, very airy and light, like so many older cars, and much easier to see out of than modern ones. Okay, so we've already popped the boot. Another brand new stop lock as well, because we haven't got an immobiliser in this car. And we've got rear folding seats too. Excellent. I don't know where the pull to those is, but that's really handy. Split folding rear seats. There we are. Let's lift up this boot carpet. It's a little bit tricky. There we go. Full-size spare, of course, and a jack. It's an alloy spare as well. Brilliant. For some reason, although this is the same trim as Jude's one, this one has alloy wheels. Maybe it was a, an optional extra or something on these. You can see, of course, that these cars do suffer from rot round the rear arches and things. That's probably what killed most of them off, to be honest. Although it does have an anti-theft radio. That's always reassuring to know. Let's have a look under the bonnet. Here we are, the 83 horsepower 1.5 Mitsubishi Orion engine. This engine was in production for a very long time, as was the very similar Sirius engine, which is what the higher end models of this came with. There was the 1.6 that generated somewhere between 105 and 114 horsepower, like the one in Jude's car, and then there was a 1.8 with 124 horsepower. That oil filler cap is exactly the same as a Mitsubishi one, and you can actually see the gearbox. There's the gearbox down there. It turns the opposite way from a lot of other engines, a similar way to a Honda D series, because the cam belt cover is actually here. But loads and loads of room to work on things in here. Absolutely loads of room, and doesn't look too bad. The battery tray looks a little corroded, but it's not got any holes in it or anything. And we've got power steering too. It's amazing just how much more simple cars were about 25 years ago in terms of working on them yourself. And obviously make sure you service it and change the cam belt and everything like that, and these engines do go on for a very long time. Right, I think it's time to take it a little drive. One thing that I've discovered straight away when driving this car is it does not have a dual mass flywheel. You have to be actually taking care when you drive it. With the same engine as in the original Proton, with 83 horsepower, I'm suspecting that when we get on the faster roads, this car might feel just a little bit underpowered. Very comfortable though. The driving position's actually really, really good. It's a lot better than some other cars at the time when I could mention. Gearbox is sort of classic Proton Mitsubishi as well. Quite a long throw, but reasonably accurate. And actually it sounds just like a Proton as well. It's not really a surprise. Certainly if you were considering buying a car like this in the mid-90s, it would be a good option in terms of the equipment that you got. The fact that you could buy a smaller car, a larger car for the price of a smaller one, and they were known for being very dependable. Certainly these Mitsubishi Orion engines are very, very, very dependable engines. The only thing, of course, which is always to some extent affected Korean cars, is the supply of parts. And these days it's not so much of an issue for the more modern ones, because, for example, the Kia Sportage is about the 10th best-selling car in the country. But in 1995, when this car was made, you'd have to go to your Hyundai dealer to get most of the parts. And that's just something to bear in mind if you want to run one of these days. Engine parts is not too much of a problem, but maybe sort of things like suspension and body panels and things like that. It's pretty easy to drive though, once you just get over the fact that you have to be a bit smoother on the clutch and things like that than you would have to do in a more modern car with a dual mass flywheel in it. Got to remember as well that the indicators are on the wrong side, or the correct side depending on your point of view. But it's quite comfortable, it's quite pleasant. Certainly in comparison with the Day Nexia, which of course didn't quite compete in the same class as this, but they were on sale for 1 year together on the market, the steering feels a lot more accurate, a lot more precise, and it's again reminds me of like a Nissan Primera. Again, a car that feels a lot more modern to drive than actually you'd expect for this sort of era. I like it. So the trim levels available on a first generation Lantra were L, GLX, GLS, GLSI, CD and CDI. Those were normal ones anyway. This is a GLS. It does have fuel injection, but for some reason they badged them later on as GLS rather than GLSI. I have no idea why. Same with the CD and CDI, which is the ones that would have come with cruise control. The next generation of Lantra, which came in later in 1995, was very different from this, and again sort of pitched half a step down from the Mondeo. I don't know whether I like the design of this one as much as the other one. I couldn't really sort of tell you. Perhaps if anybody's got a second generation Lantra, then feel free to get in touch and to review that one as well. Yes, I'm noticing now that if you have driven one of the older Protons with this engine, this car is a lot heavier and it just requires a lot more in terms of acceleration to get going. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Right, go. Oh. Oh yes, 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 lights just changed. Here we go, Stan. It doesn't really like hard acceleration. It doesn't like it at all. It just sort of makes quite a lot of noise, and yeah, I think it just prefers you to slow down a bit and take it easy. This isn't a racing car by any means. Nonetheless, it's still really comfortable. I'm just more impressed by the comfort of this car and the level of equipment that's got in it more than anything else. Certainly if you wanted to cruise at 70, there is a lot of vibration, and I will make sure we turn the camera off quite soon because I can see it sort of slightly shuddering at that, so we'll turn it off in a sec. But how does it feel when we go around this roundabout? What's the handling actually like? We'll soon find out. Into third. See how the steering feels. Yes, much more positive than the Nexia, much more positive. It's still quite light, it's easy to turn the wheel, but it just feels a little bit easy to place the car nicely. It feels good. Right, especially since we're driving into the sun, we will go back now and look at some special editions for the first generation Lantra. So viewers, apologies for the light level by the way, there's not a lot I can do about that. Should you consider a first generation Hyundai Lantra? Well, first of all, let's look at some of the special editions that were released. There was the 1.6 SEI, the 1.6 Opus, the 1.6 Visage, and then a 1.5 1.6 Auto Dura. The Lantra was also known as the Avante, just for Lantra in this country because of Lotus still owning the name to Elan, and the M100 Elan being in production at the time of this car. Then in Indonesia, the Bimantara Nenggala. Interesting. As long as the expectations of the car aren't, you know, for the most scintillating performance and the ultimate in handling, then actually this car is very comfortable. Certainly I can see that if a 1.8 CD or CDI came into my possession, supposing those things still really exist, then I really wouldn't be too disappointed at all, particularly for the kind of money these cars are worth, which is not an awful lot. Anyway, thank you for watching this episode of No Budget Reviews. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Please don't forget to like this video and to leave a comment below. My Facebook page is facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting, and also instagram.com/Lloyd_Vehicle_Consulting. Thank you.